Greetings, friends, and welcome to another ministry of the Victory Hour here on YouTube. My name is Jim Gallagher. I am the pastor at Clavel Assembly in Foster, Rhode Island, who is responsible for bringing to you this YouTube channel, and welcome to it. And share the links with friends, send them out, and tell them, hey, tune in. Now, listen, today, on today's posting, I was going to go back. I keep putting this off. I was going to go back. Look, I've got stuff to do. I'm going to go back to eschatology. We have not finished with the theme of divine vengeance on those who murdered the prophets and the witnesses of Jesus under the tribulation. There is a thematic reality, both in the Old and New Testament, that shows us that the divine vengeance on the blood of the martyrs would be taken out at the day of the Lord, at the second coming of Christ, in judgment on Jerusalem and in the first century. Yes, this theme that we find all throughout the scriptures demands of us that we believe that Christ returned in the first century in judgment on Old Covenant Jerusalem. And in doing that, he was destroying the old heavens and earth. We haven't even really gotten into that specifically, and creating the new heavens and earth. We'll talk about that as another theme sometime. But look, there's some dynamic stuff to get to, but I'm not doing it today. You say, well, you keep saying you're going to do it. No. That's because I know that. That's because I'm me. See, I'm made of flesh. And I don't know what's happening tomorrow, but things transpire. And sometimes I make plans to do a certain thing. And if I say I'm going to keep continuing that series, I will. But I have to interrupt myself from it again, just because, not long, maybe just today, at worst today and the next posting this week, but I think just today. And then we're going to get back to that. We'll do that. We don't have that long. I think I'll shorten that series on the vindication of the martyrs by divine wrath and judgment on the murderers of the martyrs, and all that proving that Christ came in the first century. I mean, we could go really long with that. I will go further with it, though. But, it's just stuff comes up, things happen, and I just feel like I want to address them. And as I've told you before, this channel was never meant to be all about eschatology. That's not what I do at Clavel. That's not what I'm going to be doing here. But because we're talking about first century parousia to people that can be very green in it, you kind of need a full court press because it seems so radical. And I've got to answer some questions too, like, well, every eye shall see him. What's going on? That didn't happen. And other objections, and I'm going to do all that stuff. Fear not. You just can't get it done all at once if you're going to do a proper job of answering each constituent objection that may be posed by futurists. So you just got to, you got to live with it. It takes time. And you got to live with the fact that I'm not a one-pony show, but we're giving it emphasis. Now, today, I'm trying to mop up a couple loose ends. I want to answer a couple of comments that were made, and then just make some observations, because if you listen to this YouTube on the first day it comes out, on Monday, the 3rd, 4th, is that what it is? The 4th? It's the day before Election Day. So I felt like I wanted to say something. The day before Election Day. Now, on YouTube, it'll only be good for that one day. That's the only day it'll be a day. So maybe I'm being foolish, but let the principles still stand long term. So I'm going to say it. But first, I want to just answer a couple of comments that were posted on the YouTube I did just very recently, entitled Protestants and the True Israel of God. It was just a one-time interjection. Again, interrupting my getting back to the vindication of the martyrs. But the Protestants and the true Israel of God, it's a couple objections there I wanted to answer, not because they were horrific or anything like that. I just felt like I wanted to answer them up front. I could do it pretty easy and quickly. One gentleman, because I haven't taught a series on the Israel of God yet. I have got to do that sometime too, and that will take a little bit. So I gave you a one-shot pow, leaving a whole bunch of factoids out. I know that can leave some people in confusion. All right, so one fella, he's a friend of the channel, and he agrees with us in our doctrine, and I'm happy that he's there. And he sent, it was a friendly comment, but he made one observation, and that was he didn't think that what was happening in the Middle East, because I was talking about the true Israel of God, which is in contrast to fake Israel. When I say fake Israel, I mean the Zionist enterprise in the Middle East. And this one gentleman says, oh, he's right there with us on the doctrine, and he's happy, and he's right there with us, and I'm glad for that. He said the only thing, and very respectful, very kindly, I have no issue with the man, but he said, but I disagree with you on one thing. I don't think what Israel is doing now is genocide. And he did suggest that maybe I've been reading some anti-Semitic literature, which is what most people will say when they hear hard things that they're not used to hearing, and it relates to the fake state of Israel. So I do want to address that because although he came from a very friendly viewpoint, lots of very, very unfriendly people would say the same thing. Oh, I must be some sort of anti-Semite to suggest that they're engaging in genocide. Well, first of all, I'm not going to go deeply into that, but when this whole thing came out and these Arabs came across the border riding on what looked like lawnmowers with big fans attached to them, with a little, some wings, a parachute. I don't remember how they're parachutes, I guess, or whatever. They come across, and of course, what they did was horrible. And you got to understand something. I'm not in favor of Hamas. I'm not in favor of these Islamic radical terrorist groups that are themselves very anti-Christian. I don't read their literature. And I believe that all nations have a right to defend themselves against assaults from without. I believe that. Israel had, however, I want to say that the state of fake Israel had a very corrupt terrorist foundation. So do with that what you may, but that's just the truth. Irgun, the Stern Gang, bombing of the King David Hotel, Deir Yassin. If you look up these things and read about them at length, I don't have time to get into them all right now, but it's bad news. Bad news. And, I brought some things. Well, I'm not going to read that. But they were corrupt from the beginning. From the beginning, the fake state of Israel was founded on revolutionary Marxist principles. Did you realize that? The Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, there were three communist groups that were vying for power once a communist revolution overtook Russia. And it was the Bolsheviks, the Mensheviks, and the Jewish Bund. All communists. They were financed by Jewish financiers from New York. There's a radical element amongst the Jewish people that people completely underestimate the magnitude of the radicalism. Well, I got a quote here, for instance. This is from Look magazine. Look magazine. Do you remember Look? You have to be older to remember Look. But this is January 16th, 1962. See, I got the page. Has a picture of Ben Gurion. See? Yeah, the Ben Gurion. And so Look magazine, January 16th, 1962. Ben Gurion says, the image of the world in 1987. Now, he's saying this in 1962. And Ben-Gurion, the Prime Minister of Israel, said, quote, the image of the world in 1987. Oh, wait a minute. What was happening in 1987? Well, let me read what he says first. The image of the world in 1987 have traced in my imagination. The Cold War will be a thing of the past. Oh, the Cold War is going to end in 1987. What happened in 1987? Oh, wait a minute. Mikhail Gorbachev? Perestroika? Glasnost. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Communism fell then. Oh, it'll be a thing of the past. Oh, how did he know this in 1962? I'm telling you, they had a radical foundation. I'm not mad at you. I'm just, I express myself strongly, I'm not even Italian. I guess maybe it's the Irish thing. Or maybe I'm just a red-blooded American. I don't know. It doesn't matter. He also predicts, he says, well, let me read it for you. The Cold War will be a thing of the past. Internal pressure of the constantly growing intelligentsia in Russia for more freedom and the pressure of the masses for raising their standard of living may lead to a gradual democratization of the Soviet Union. Oh, he pinpointed, he didn't say like by 1990, 1987. Ooh, so specific. And accurate. Well, seemingly accurate. That communism fell. Did it? Go read the book by Viktor Ostrovsky. Well, go read, I've got it, my bookcase. Mikhail Gorbachev's book, entitled Perestroika. He tells you, we're doing this, we're becoming more democratized to strengthen the communist system because it had gotten hardening of the arteries and the blood wasn't flowing through his veins, and the statism produced a lot of laziness and clogged arteries, and government wasn't efficient. So we realized there's some efficiency in some free enterprise, and we can gain some money and regain our power as communists. So we'll sort of pretend to go through an anti-communist, but we're not giving up our Marxism. That's Mikhail Gorbachev's book, Perestroika. I can read it. I don't have the time. I don't have it in front of me. It's on the other side of the room. Here's Ben-Gurion, 1962. It will transform the United States into a welfare state with a planned economy. Whoa! Western and Eastern Europe will become a federation. Oh, West Germany, East Germany, a socialist democratic regime. And then they say this, listen to this. In Jerusalem, the United Nations will build a shrine of the prophet to serve the federated union of all continents. This will be the seat of the Supreme Court of mankind. Oh, fake Jerusalem and fake Israel is meant to be the capital of global revolution. Is this anti-Semitism? No, I'm reading Ben-Gurion. I'm talking the foundations were rotted at its root. Go read the speech. I don't have time to read it. See the name of that? Zionism versus Bolshevism by Winston Churchill. Go ahead, Google it. Zionism versus Bolshevism by Winston Churchill. I'll just read one excerpt. A bunch I could read here. He says, it may well be that this same astounding race, we're talking about the Jewish nation, the Jewish people, this same astounding race may at the present time in Winston Churchill's day. Now, everybody says, oh, Winston Churchill was a genius. He was a wise man. He was a politician extraordinaire. All right. And he was, he didn't have a dull mind. I can say that. He says, but it may well be that this same astounding race may at the present time be in the actual process of producing another system of morals and philosophy as malevolent as Christianity was benevolent, which, if not arrested, if we don't stop this malevolent movement, by the Jewish nation, it would shatter irretrievably all that Christianity has rendered possible. It would almost seem as if the gospel of Christ and the gospel of Antichrist were destined to originate among the same people, and that this mystic and mysterious race had been chosen for the supreme manifestation, both of the divine, because they gave us the Bible, they gave us the Messiah, from which came the gospel. They're responsible for giving us both the divine, he says, and the diabolical. He's talking about communist revolution. Just read it. Zionism versus Bolshevism by the Right Honorable Winston F. Churchill. Here's an article I got from Haaretz.com. Haaretz, that's a Jewish organization in Israel. Haaretz. This is from April 16th, 2008. I dug it out of my archives. Report. This is the title of the article. Report. Netanyahu says 9/11 terror attacks good for Israel. There you go. Our good friends in the Middle East. Oh, this is a great thing. 9/11 was a great thing. It put the Americans on our side. They'll be fighting our wars. Yeah, that was the Project for a New American Century neocons that were getting us to go and fulfill the Netanyahu plan of overrunning his Arab neighbors. But now we get the United States to do it for us, and 9/11 is the new Pearl Harbor. They made it all wonderfully possible. I'd read that to you. I don't have time. Here's a Jewish publication, The Jewish Forward, by Alan Nadler. I just read the opening paragraph. Well, the title of the book, the article is Shirati Rabbis Rush to Disavow Anti-Gentile Book. Leaders of the country's most prominent ultra-Orthodox yeshiva are scrambling to distance themselves from a book by one of their disciples, which argues that Gentiles are, quote, completely evil, end quote, and Jews constitute a separate, genetically superior species. It's in a Jewish publication. Well, what's that got to do with? I'm telling you, there's a thought process in much of the ruling elite from the foundation of fake Israel, the Zionist enterprise in the Middle East, that has both Marxist and Jewish supremacist foundations. Now, listen, I don't have time for this. Here's another article from UPI. Israel to kill in U.S. allied nations. That was from January 15th, 2003. Barak Goldstein, who murdered a bunch of Arabs, they made a shrine for him. And then we have, I won't read these, I don't have time. This is by James Paul Warburg, who was the son of Paul Warburg. Paul Warburg was one of the founders of the Federal Reserve Bank, a partner in the Warburg Bank in Germany. And he went to Jekyll Island with Nelson Aldrich from Rhode Island, which gave us the Federal Reserve System, one of the most corrupt entities that exist in the world. And Paul Warburg's son, James Paul Warburg, said, quote, and he was a nephew to Felix Warburg and Jacob Schiff, who helped finance the Bolshevik Revolution, all of Kuhn, Loeb and Company, which poured millions of dollars into the Russian Revolution, through James's brother Max, who was the banker to the German government and chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. Ooh, this is all. If this doesn't mean anything to you, then you won't get the point. But it's bad. It's bad. By the way, the same guy, James Warburg, was the financial advisor to FDR, our president. That guy was surrounded by Marxists, and he was a socialist himself. Not a good president. Now listen, I don't have time for all this. I just want to say every nation has a right to defend themselves. And these radical Arab terrorist groups, I do not defend. But Netanyahu stood down, let it happen, so he can instigate this genocidal program of complete elimination of all his enemies, start World War III, get us to come in, go in after Iran. This is the project for a new American century now being reinitiated by Netanyahu. Seeing in the 1990s, that was part of Netanyahu's foreign policy plan to get rid of their nasty neighbors. And then the project for the new American century, 9/11, caused the United States to take the job over. Now we've kind of somewhat collapsed a little bit in that. And so he wants to ramp things up and begin to lead the charge. And then hopefully he thinks he can back off, and then we just finish it off for him and do his dirty work. And look, if people aren't familiar with this stuff, they'll come to the wrong conclusion. Look, I'm against these radical Islamic terrorist groups. I don't want them here. Their problems. They need to be dealt with, I understand. But there's more than most people think to what's going on. It's all part of the globalist strategy. The globalists are coming after us. And in this election, if Kamala Harris gets in, the globalists, and part of the globalist Marxist crowd is the fake state of Israel. They're our fake friends, our fake capitalist friends. With friends like that, they clean themselves and dust themselves off well for our consumption. But there's a lot of nasty business to this that you need to go beyond the headlines of the mainstream news and read real historians. All right. Look, the gentleman that made the comment, he's a good guy. I got no issue with him. And, I don't think if genocide can a nation defend itself, a nation can defend itself. But this is a complicated fact when it comes to the state of Israel. That land was taken from people that were there. And there's been a systematic dehumanizing and murdering of many of them. Look, they're not always the best people. I understand that. This is just not as black and white as what our illustrious leaders would have us believe, because you know that the state of Israel has, what's the word I want? They send these lobbyists. They have a lobbyist for every senator and congressman. And there's only one fella that refuses to entertain him. So they have individual guys. Israel has individual lobbyists to every congressman and senator. And they know how to turn the screws and make everybody smile like there's nothing going on here. And that's what our congressmen and senators do. You got to look at the background of this. And I'm not talking about reading anti-Semitic literature. Just read a broad base of literature that's dependable. And that have no vested interest, and you'd be surprised what you find. All right, now look, I'm probably, how's the time? Oh yeah, look at that. So I wanted to just look. So I say that. Oh yeah, there was one other comment. You see, there was one other comment. I'll have to say it quick. They say, someone said, the Pope is the Antichrist. In the same Protestants, the true Israel of God, one fellow says the Pope is the Antichrist. Well, when I was referencing the Antichrist, I wasn't referencing the Antichrist, more Antichrist as a principle, the spirit of Antichrist, as the scripture talks about. Some people say the Antichrist is the same thing as the beast. I'm not splitting those hairs. I wasn't making any specific comments. But look, as far as the Pope being the Antichrist, no, that's not possible. Because the Antichrist, the definition of Antichrist, according to the scriptures, as I said in that posting, is to deny that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of a living God. He is Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. And the ultimate Christian confession is Jesus is the Christ, the Son of a living God, the Apostle Peter. Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah. So the doctrine of Antichrist is the exact opposite of the fundamental confession of Christianity. Is that surprising? The fundamental confession of Christianity is Jesus is the Christ, the Son of a living God. Who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. That's what John said in his epistle. The Roman Catholic Church has never, formally or informally, taken the position that Jesus is not the Christ. that Jesus is not the Messiah prophesied by the Old Testament prophets. The Roman Catholic Church has never taken that position. They do not fit the biblical definition of Antichrist. They're a problem. Now, I see Rome as part of the beast system mentioned in the book of Revelation, yes. But, Antichrist, I wasn't talking about the Antichrist. I'm talking about the concept of Antichrist, the spirit of Antichrist, and you can't jam Rome there. But you can jam Rome into, I think, in the argument of who is the beast. However, we're not talking about a beast in our future. The beast, the tribulation, all that was in the first century. And by the way, it couldn't be the Roman Catholic Church. There was no pope in 66 to 70 AD. There was no pope in 66 to 70 AD. Peter was not the pope. There was no pope even after Peter. It took time to develop popery. There was a bishop in Jerusalem. There was a bishop in Rome. And some may have had more influence than others, but there was no pope. So, it doesn't add up. So that's that. Look, I got to make a comment here about the election tomorrow. I got to do it. Jamie Raskin said quite famously recently that there's going to be civil war with this election, and all the Trump people are going to be marauding as wild banshees going through the street, creating civil war conditions, and we're all going to need bodyguards. And he was stirring the pot, saying he was preparing us for the false flag of black intel operations to set up Trump supporters as being rabble-rousers so they could clamp down on them and create emergency situations. And if they have Kamala, look, let's just be honest. If Kamala Harris wins, the majority of Americans aren't believing that was credible. They won't believe that that was a valid election. The majority of Americans won't. I'm saying even many Democrats will know there was lying, cheating, stealing. Look, think about the things they've been doing. It's just crazy what they've been doing. I mean, let me ask you a question. Under what pretext do the Democrats in multiple states, and federally, under what pretext do the Democrats say, we need to allow illegal aliens to vote? There were states that got the illegal aliens off their rolls. Then the feds came in and says, oh, you got to put them back on and let their votes count. That's revolutionary talk. Under what pretext do the Democrats say, oh, we can't have voter ID? Why? You need and it's very insulting. They make it, they're almost boiling it down to this. It's an insult to black Americans. Like, oh, they don't know how to have America in 2024 and black people don't know how to get an ID? Some kind of ID? Come on. It's racism, they say. Under what pretext can you argue we shouldn't have just citizens, confirmed citizens, vote in any American election? That's to defend the Constitution of the United States. These people are lawless. They're liars. They're thieves. They're swindlers. We can't have voter ID. Why not? There's no good reason except one reason. They want to cheat. These drop boxes, they want to cheat. They're cheap boxes. That's what they are. Why do we have to have all this mail-in ballots? And now the mail-in ballots are growing by like leaps and bounds. Ripe for cheating. We all know it. Late voting. These judges are saying, oh yeah, votes can come in 3 days late. We're still going to count them. Yeah, we'll see that Trump's winning, and then we can keep stuffing the envelopes until we get just a little over, and oh, okay, voting's done, let's count the tally. Like last time. Liars, thieves, corrupt. You know, I'm out of time, so I'm just going to look at a couple texts. Oh, I had a whole bunch written down. Well, how about Isaiah? I'm just going to randomly pick a couple. They might not be the two best or something. Isaiah 5, verse 23. Well, I have to read 22. Well, I got to go back to verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil. Ah, that's the radical leftists. And by the way, there's a lot of Republicans who do the same thing. The establishment, swampy kind. That put darkness for light and light for darkness. That put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those people. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine and men of strength to mingle strong drink. Woe to these leaders which justify the wicked for reward. They justify the wicked for reward. Like the Capitol Police people, the top dogs who stood down to let January 6th happen, and then they get promoted. Oh, we've seen that. Who justify the wicked for reward and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Oh, yeah, Hillary, she can't, her laptop, keep it. The court says, don't do anything with that. We want that. So she scrubs it clean and destroys it with hammers. And she isn't even prosecuted. You can fund the fake Russian dossier, which CNN and NBC and MSNBC and all the rest of them, ABC, they went on for like 2.5 years, non-stop, multiple stories. It's all lie, just like the Trump, the Hunter Biden laptop. Lies, lies, lies. They say, no, it's the truth. So Hillary gets off with her crimes. But they prosecute Trump one after another and after another after another. And when none of them work, well, let's try killing him. 2 shots. Failed both times. Well, maybe a third time, too. Now they keep trying to come up with things. Oh, he's having a Nazi rally in New York. And he said he's going to kill black people. All these things. It's craziness. I watched Jake Tapper from CNN. What a clown show. I watched Jake Tapper interview Vice President to be, hopefully, Vance. And as he's interviewing Mr. Vance, Tapper says, Trump said he's going to arrest Americans. He's just going to come after Americans. He's going to come after all the people he disagrees with. And he's going to use the military to do it. He said so. And Vance is saying, nah, that's not what he said. You're totally taking him out of context. He's going to do guys like General Milley. Some of these, like a general who would say, oh, yeah, we're going to tip off the communist Chinese if Trump makes a move. We're going to keep the communists informed so he can't do what he wants to do. And a general who disobeys an order from the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief. He isn't court-martialed. They don't do anything to this guy. He's a woke leftist lunatic. And Trump says these kind of people have political power, and they abused and broke laws and disobeyed the Constitution and lied and did all these things to interfere with elections, to misrepresent the truth, and they abuse their power to do it. We need to prosecute them. People said, that's what he does. That he just wants to get his enemies. Hey, when Trump became president first time, did he prosecute Hillary Clinton? And he knew he could, and he'd win. However, he said it wouldn't be good for the country. And anyway, Mr. Vance is saying to Jake Tapper, he was talking about political leaders that were breaking the law and getting away with it. and harming their people and interfering with the election. And Jake Tapper responds, well, he says, no, it was all Americans. He says, no, it was these leaders. And then Jake Tapper responds, well, aren't they Americans? Yes, they're Americans. You know, what a weasel. Jake Tapper was trying to say he's going after like normal, everyday, average Joe Americans because they were against Trump. And then when Mr. Vance says, no, he's talking about political leaders who abused their power and broke the laws. Jake Tapper, well, aren't they Americans? What a weasel. Should Trump arrest people like that? Well, Proverbs. And people don't write to me saying Trump has problems. I know he does. He plays too kissy poo with fake Israel in the Middle East. Look, I know that. I know that. So what do you want? A communist regime? I'm not talking lesser of two evils. I would not vote. I didn't vote for George Bush. He was a phony. I didn't vote for his son. He was a phony. I mean, who are you going to vote for? Bob Dole? No, I didn't vote in those elections for those clowns. Donald Trump has his faults. But it seems to me, with his faults, he's striving to do what he thinks, and he isn't always right, but he's striving to do what he thinks is best for America. I can vote for a guy like that, because if I wait for Jesus Christ himself and his perfection to run for president of the United States, then I'll never have any input. So I don't believe in voting the lesser of two evils. But I do believe in trying to stop the monstrous globalist evil that will destroy forever our country. There'll be no going back. I mean, this election stuff. So should Trump arrest the people that have broken the laws in the halls of power? Well, if we look at Proverbs, which is a book of wisdom inspired of the Spirit of God, Proverbs chapter 25. Let me get there. Proverbs 25 and verse 5. Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne shall be established in righteousness. Take away the wicked from before the king. Get rid of his counselors that are corrupt and wicked. Bring justice on their head. Remove them. Prosecute them. Take away the wicked from before the king. And if you do that, his throne, the king's throne, shall be established in righteousness. That needs to happen because the cancer is too systemic in Washington, D.C. I don't have any more time. I'm out of time. Oh, I had a bunch of great passages to read to you. Well, some other time maybe. But next time, I'm not sure what we'll do next time. We may go back to the, I don't know. If either Thursday, we'll go back to Eschatology and Vindication of the Martyrs, or we'll do one more thing on whatever. Maybe we will continue this. We'll see what happens after the election. But are we going to know by Thursday? Probably not. Although, who knows? The media might call it on Tuesday afternoon, like around, 1:30. Yeah, Kamala wins. Look, the Republicans are corrupt. The Democrats are corrupt. Trump wants to come in and bust the place up. Let him do it. I don't know who else amongst the Republicans has the nerve to do it. I have to say, J.D. Vance presents himself very well, very well. I think Ramaswamy does too. J.D. Vance, a lot of people are impressed with him, but he's still got to prove himself. So once he comes into serious fire, being the vice president to Trump, we'll see how he does. And it may be there'll be no one to vote for the next time. I guess we'll find out. But in the end, the kings are appointed by the Lord, and he will appoint even the basest of men to rule over the kingdoms of this world. So we're not putting our trust in princes. But if we can buy some time for our nation to breathe before she gets executed, why do we need breathing time before we get executed? Because maybe the Lord will do a new thing and will repent, and I have children and grandchildren. And friends and loved ones. I'm not wishing ill on them. I said, Lord, if there's a way, show us grace and drive us to repentance. However the Lord wants to do that. In the end, whatever he does is right, and I'll agree with it. Jim Gallagher, reminding you in the words of our blessed Lord and Savior, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.